The Sims franchise has been a gaming powerhouse for more than 20 years, with 4 mainline games and multiple spin-offs and DLCs and millions of fans all around the world. Its revolutionary gameplay has completely reshaped the life simulation genre, and it's been at its pinnacle throughout the years. The famous Play with Life tag has accompanied the franchise for a while, and it summarizes pretty well what the public has come to expect from these games. The ability to create Sims and live infinite lives by controlling and deciding everything they own, their interaction, and even the world around them. The ability to play with life is the main selling point for the franchise, meaning that Maxis always had the necessity of creating the best tools for players to replicate real life. The most important ones being the Create a Sim tools, which allow players to recreate realistic people or push their boundaries and make spectacular fantasy sims. And the Sims franchise really pushed some boundaries in the gaming industry, being one of the first games where players could represent themselves without limitation to their sexual orientation and later on even their gender identity. In this video, I want to take a stroll through the last 20 years of The Sims to talk specifically about its commitment to representation of the LGBTQ+ community and why it's such an influential game. The Sims franchise is composed by 4 mainline games and a multitude of spin-offs that are loosely based on the same principles. You create your character and help it interact with the outside world, helping it or hindering it to live its life as you please. The first game, called only The Sims, was released in February of 2000, developed by Maxis and published by Electronic Arts, and it was an immediate massive hit. The game became a bestseller not much after its launch, and it was the best-selling computer game in the US in both 2000 and 2001 with more than $130 million in revenue. By February of 2005, it had sold 16 million copies worldwide, and it's still considered today one of the best-selling games ever. From this first game stemmed an entire legacy of incredibly successful games. The Sims 2, released in 2004, sold more than 1 million copies in 10 days and 7 million by 2006. The Sims 3, which came out in 2009, sold 1.4 million copies in just its first week, and quickly became the top-selling computer game for EA. The Sims 4, released in 2014 and the last of the mainline games, has more than 70 million players as of April of this year and has generated more than $1 billion in total revenue. These games were all massive hits that stemmed multiple other spin-offs like The Herbs, the My Sims series, Sims Medieval, and much more, with even different versions of the game depending on the console you would play on. Electronic Arts did not expect such an impact stemming from the series. They had a very moderate expectation for this extravagant project and thought that no one would ever want to play it. For this reason, the creator of the series, Will Wright, struggled to keep the project going. Instead, The Sims was immediately a huge success, and it also quickly became a reference for the LGBTQ+ community, thanks to the possibility of having relationships between characters from the same sex. We could say that The Sims became a point of reference for everyone, shocking the gaming industry. In the early years of the series, more than 50% of those who played it identified as female, a percentage now common in many video games genres, but seen as very unusual at the time. Although the non-male population had been part of the world of video games from the beginning, The Sims was one of the first video games to welcome the LGBTQ+ community, female gamers, and those simply looking for a new experience. And in the year 2000, in a world where not conforming to heteronormativity and the gender norms meant being excluded, The Sims became a space for people to discover themselves. The original Sims is one of the first games that allowed same-sex relationships to take place. However, that wasn't supposed to be the case during the game's development. The addition of same-sex relationship was a heated topic of discussion during the development of The Sims, as evidenced by the documentation released by one of the programmers, Don Hopkins. No mainstream video game had ever featured same-sex relationship the way they would in The Sims, and while creator Will Wright really wanted to include them, Maxis feared it would be another reason for EA to pull the plug on the project. Because of that, during development they eliminated the possibility for Sims characters to have gay relationships. It was a new programmer who put them back into the game due to an error in the documentation. Patrick J. Barrett III had recently joined Maxis, and he was entrusted with the implementation of the new interactions between Sims. Because of an internal mistake, he was given dated documentation in which same-sex relationships still appeared, and he developed the relationships between Sims characters to also allow gay relationships. When things were done, no one intervened to remove them, and in 1999, when The Sims had to be presented at the E3 show, Patrick J. Barrett happened to be the one making the video presentation, and still unaware of the disapproval from his superiors, he made a trailer that featured two male Sims kissing on the couch. The overall positive response from the press and the public convinced developers and publishers to focus on this aspect in all the future games. Let's now talk about each game and the addition of LGBTQ+ relationships and marriages that they each added. Starting with The Sims, in the first game, Sims can develop relationships with any character regardless of gender, rendering Sims de facto bisexual or pansexual. The first Sims game also allows same-sex couples to move in together, but there is no option for marriage. It's fair to point out that marriage is not a recognized state in the game, but a simple social interaction, and there is no formal relationship between Sims. This means that the game doesn't actually distinguish between couples that are just living together or that are actually married. Furthermore, our household with more than one adult Sims can occasionally receive a random phone call asking if they want to adopt a baby. In the Herbs Sims in the City, the console spin-off, there's also a mission in the game that asks for player's character to become involved in a love triangle with a male and a female herb, with the player having to choose one over the other. It wasn't until The Sims 2's release that we got some official representation with the introduction of civil unions, as a gay variant of marriage, and the introduction of sexual preferences, which was much more fluid and nuanced than in the first game. While it's true that there was a distinction between straight couples and gay couples in the terminology used, it's good to remember that in 2004, at the time of release, only a handful of countries and territories in the world allowed a same-sex couple to get married. As for adoptions, all adult and elder Sims can adopt a child by using a telephone, and if a Sim that calls the adoption agency is married or in a civil union, their partner will be seen as the co-parent of the adopted child. Same-sex couple may even get a specific want to adopt. Interestingly, in the Sims 2 version for the PSP, it's virtually impossible to complete the game without forming romantic relationships with male and female Sims, since one of the main ways to generate currency and furthering objectives is by revealing secrets, which is only accessible by getting to level 4 in a romantic relationship with a new character. The Sims 3 is the game to finally introduce gay marriage. There's no distinction between same-sex and heterosexual marriage, and all the features are the same. Gay couples receive the same advantages and recognitions as the heterosexual ones. The use of the word marriage for any couple in-game, and the ability to adopt and co-parent children, just like in The Sims 2. The Sims 3, with the expansion into the future, also has the first official way in the game for gay couples to have genetic offsprings, since when you travel to the future, you can meet your descendants. A quick mention also has to go to The Sims Medieval, which does allow gay couples, but they cannot have children or adopt. As for The Sims 4, equality is really the key. Marriage and adoptions are allowed to all Sims from the ages of young adult all the way to elders. As an addition to what came with The Sims 3, with the recent update, The Sims were introduced Science Babies, a new base game addition of an interaction over the phone. Sims can now have a science baby, similar to surrogacy or IVF in real life, which means that any adult Sim, single or in a relationship without distinction between a romantic or friendly relationship, can have a baby that isn't adopted but created using their genes. The premade Sims have populated the many worlds in many games since the original Sims, and their unique stories and personality make them or break them in the eyes of the players. Since The Sims 2, some of these premade townies have had some sprinkles of LGBTQ+ representation in them, but it's not until The Sims 4 that we have out and proud Sims walking around town. In The Sims 2, the Inseminator allows to see the Sims' degree of attraction to both genders, and some Sims show a preference for their own gender even if they're often involved in heterosexual storylines. Some of these Sims are Ken Cap, even if he is romantically involved with Bianca Monti, and Jason Cleveland, even if he's married to his wife Marissa. Interestingly, a couple premade Sims in The Sims 2 are bisexual, with equal interest toward both male and female Sims. Cersei Beaker and Titania Summerdream are officially bi. Nervous Subject is neutral to all male Sim and repulsed by female Sims, which might be an intentional choice for the developers to have a gay or ace Sim. In The Sims 2 University expansion, Mitch, Indy, and Max Flexor from the Friends household have some ambiguous descriptions that suggest they might discover themselves while living together. The Sims 3 definitely pushed the representation in premade Sims a bit more. Gobaya's coffee from Sunset Valley is implied to be gay in his bio. In The Sims 3 Ambitions, we have a Blaze Kindle and Alma Trail, whose family bio implies they are learning new things living together, and their shared bedroom consists of 2 single beds pushed together, implying their relationship is developing. Thanks to the Sims 3 store, we also saw the addition of the Aurora Skies word, which sees Victor Volkest and Jesper Sandstrom, who are best friends, but in their family bio there's a strong implication of them being in a relationship. They even have a daughter, Lynn, whose last name is a mix of their dads, Wallström. The Sims 3 store also saw the addition of Roaring Heights, which hosts the first official gay couple in the whole series. Dylan and Audrey Shear are married and have a child together. But it's with The Sims 4 that the representation in premade Sims saw an enormous jump. The Sims 4 Vampires was presented with a trailer where one of the playable Sims, Caleb Vator, is seen flirting with a male and 2 other female Sims. With The Sims 4 Cats and Dogs, we didn't just get pets in the game, while we also saw the addition of the first official gay couple in The Sims 4. Brant and Brent Hacking are married, and they're even shown in the trailer getting married to each other. This makes them the first gay couple in The Sims 4 and the second in the whole franchise. In The Sims 4 City Living, the premade Sam Darling Walsh from the Karaoke Legends household is implied to be gender fluid. With the release of Island Living, the series has seen the third premade couple in an openly same-sex relationship. Oliana Ngata and Leila Ills are married and have a son together. In Solani, there's also Leah Hawata, who is implied to be non-binary. In the realm of Magic Game Pack, Morgan Ember is implied to be either gender fluid or transgender, since they have a masculine frame, are unable to get pregnant or get other Sims pregnant, and can only use the toilet sitting down. In Eco Lifestyle, Evergreen Harbor features 2 premade lesbian couples, Blossom and Mary Greenberg with their adopted son Knox, and Tina and Yasmin Tinker with their daughter Olive. The Cottage Living EP added another gay couple, Derek McMillan and Ian Moody. In Tortosa, the word added with the My Wedding Stories game pack, there's the Soto family, composed by Dominic and Camille, a lesbian couple that got married in Tortosa when they were younger. High School Years finally added a multitude of queer characters. With the introduction of the sexual orientation feature, Sydney Price is set as bisexual, but is shown to have a crush on another boy in the official trailer. His sister Savannah is set as Arrow Ace. Molly Prescott is set as lesbian. Ava Arjo is set as a bisexual, and she's married to her husband Lucha. Their son Noah is set as gay, and their other child, Ash, is non-binary, as confirmed by their pronouns in the game. Finally, with the latest expansion growing together, we have the first 2 Sims to be officially called transgender and non-binary. In the interaction Share San Sequoia Secrets, players can find some information about the Sims living in the new world, and Celeste Michelson, who was also featured in the pack trailer, is revealed to be transgender. The same way, Jay Robles is confirmed to be non-binary and uses they them pronouns. Finally, Aurelia Robles is set as aromantic. The Sims 4 has also portrayed gay couples in a lot of promotional pictures and trailers. One of the game's covers portrays a lot of Sims all together and features Della Ostro and Mia Hayes hugging. When they were posted on the official gallery for players to download, the description revealed that they are in a relationship. Another notable example is the cover for the My Wedding Stories pack, where young version of Camila Dominic Soto are featured getting married as seen in the trailer for the pack as well. The Sims 4 might not be everyone's favorite game, but when we're talking LGBTQ+ representation, it really excels. As we said before, players are able to have their Sims get married to any Sim of age without restriction, and all adult Sims are allowed to adopt. But the developers introduced a lot of new features to make the experience the best. Firstly, The Sims 4 allow players to decide their Sim's clothing preference, and they can add makeup to any Sim they like without many restrictions. In addition, with the gender update of 2016 when created a Sim, there's a few options to create realistic characters. You can pick whether your Sim has a masculine or feminine frame, if they be standing up or sitting down, and if they can get pregnant or get someone else pregnant. These options already allowed for a great amount of representation, since you could really personalize your Sims to fit any life story you wanted. The team also added bright clothing and flags in-game with a bunch of different options. We've also seen the addition of custom pronouns to the game. Unfortunately, this feature is confined to the English language for now, but it allows players to set their Sims pronoun or use new pronouns as well. Another major update came with high school years and the introduction of sexuality preferences, allowing players to assign different sexuality parameters such as attraction towards a gender, both, or none if the Sim is exploring romantically, and who's your Sims interested in woohooing with. These options allow for even more representation of different sexualities. Sims are not bound by the binary and are not only bisexuals, allowing players to create characters that are gay, lesbian, pansexual, aroace, and much more. Finally, we recently saw the addition of top surgery scars and gender-affirming item of clothes with a binder and padded panties, plus the introduction of Science Baby, which allows IVF and surrogacy for all young adults, and elder Sims. The Sims franchise is one of the biggest and most valuable gaming franchises in history, with billions of dollars in income spent over 23 years of releases, and it has an incredible influence on modern games. It's also been a pioneer in LGBTQ+ representation in gaming since the beginning. Many kids playing this game realized their queerness and were able to express themselves and create amazing stories to feel represented, something that still happens today and is still just as important. While it's true that none of the games are perfect and none of the games can pretend to have the best queer representation ever, they are all monumental stepping stones for the gaming industry that really show developers it's okay to represent and uplift everyone in their stories. I truly hope to see the Sims franchise continue to innovate and push for queer representation in the upcoming years, with more updates to The Sims 4 and with The Sims 5 hopefully being the best in the series, so that it can allow more and more kids and players to create life as they know it, as colorful, cool, and queer as it can be.